My name is Sarah Chen, and I'm 26 years old. 3 days ago, my parents served me with a lawsuit. Not a text, not a call. A certified letter from a law firm. They're suing me for $62,000. That's their mortgage payment for the next 5 years, and they believe I owe it to them because they co-signed my student loans when I was 22 and didn't understand what that actually meant. The thing is, I already paid off my loans. All $183,000 of them. Paid them off in 4 years while working full-time and going to grad school at night. And now they want me to pay theirs. If you've ever been the responsible child in a family that mistakes responsibility for obligation, please hit subscribe. This story gets worse before it gets better. And drop a comment telling me your city because I read every single one. Let me take you back to the summer I turned 18. I was accepted to UC Berkeley, full ride scholarships for tuition, but still had to cover room and board. That's about $35,000 a year in 2016. Not cheap. My parents sat me down at the kitchen table in our house in San Jose, the same table where we'd eaten dinner every night for 18 years. My dad pulled out a stack of papers, financial aid forms, loan applications, the whole thing. He wore his reading glasses, the ones he only wore for serious business stuff. "You're going to need student loans," he said. Not a question. A statement. Final. Like he'd already made the decision and was just informing me of it. My mum added, "We can help. We'll co-sign." I was 18. I had never taken out a loan in my life. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a credit history. I didn't even know what co-sign meant. I thought it meant they were signing alongside me, showing support. Like they were saying, "We believe in you. We're in this together." It didn't mean that. I asked my dad what co-signing actually meant, and he explained it once, quickly, while we were filling out the forms. He pointed at the line where his signature went and said, "It just means if you don't pay, we're responsible." He said it the way you say things you assume won't happen. The way you say, "If there's a fire," while you're standing in a completely safe room with no exits boarded up. I asked, "What does responsible mean?" He said, "We'd have to pay the loans if you couldn't." "Okay," I said. I was 18. I was going to Berkeley. I was going to graduate. I was going to get a good job. I was going to pay back every penny. I was certain of it. I signed the papers. My parents co-signed. We submitted everything to the lender. 2 weeks later, I moved into the dorms at Berkeley with 2 suitcases and a lot of confidence in my own future. Here's what I didn't understand at 18. Co-signing a loan doesn't just mean you're showing support or that you're liable if something goes wrong. It means you are legally liable for the entire debt if the primary borrower doesn't pay. It goes on your credit report. It counts toward your debt-to-income ratio when you apply for mortgages or car loans or anything else. If I had defaulted, my parents' credit would have been destroyed. Not hurt. Destroyed. Like they wouldn't be able to buy a house or refinance their existing house or get a good rate on anything. If I had missed even one payment, it would have affected their ability to get credit cards, personal loans, everything. My parents didn't explain any of that. They just signed. And here's the thing that I didn't realize until much later. My parents were not poor. My dad was an engineer at a tech company. My mum was a project manager at HP. Together, they made about $220,000 a year in the late 2010s. They had savings. They had a house they were paying off. They had a retirement account. They could have helped me pay for college directly. They could have said, "We'll pay $10,000 a year and you take out loans for the rest." They could have co-contributed. They chose not to. Instead, they co-signed $183,000 in federal and private student loans. And then they never mentioned it again. I went to Berkeley. I studied computer science. I worked part-time jobs the entire time. RA position in the dorms, tutoring other students in math, summer internships at tech companies. Every penny I made went toward living expenses or extra loan payments. My parents never asked me about the loans. Never said, "How are you managing?" Never offered to help with payments. Never even acknowledged that they'd co-signed $183,000 in debt. I came home for holidays and we'd have normal family dinners. My mum would ask about my classes. My dad would ask about my internships. My younger brother would talk about his high school drama or whatever. But nobody mentioned the elephant in the room. The $183,000 in debt that was sitting there, co-signed by both of them, quietly accruing interest, waiting. I think now they were counting on something. Maybe they thought I'd fail out. Maybe they thought I'd ask them for money. Maybe they thought the debt would just stay there, suspended, a safety net they could point to and say, "We helped you. We believed in you." Instead, I graduated in 2018. I wanted my parents' names off everything. I wanted them to have no liability, no connection to my debt. It took 3 months of paperwork, phone calls, and forms. But I did it. My dad called me when he got the notification from the lender. "Sarah, you got us off the loans?" "Yeah, Dad. I refinanced everything. You're not responsible anymore. It's all on me now." There was a pause. I could hear him breathing on the other end. I think he was surprised. I think maybe he'd forgotten they were even co-signed. "Good," he said finally. "That's good. That's really good, sweetheart." "It means you're completely clear," I said. "No liability, no credit impact, nothing. The loans are mine and mine alone. That's really responsible of you." We said goodbye and I hung up. I think that's when things started to change for them. I think they realised they weren't going to be able to hold that loan over my head anymore. I think they realised I was actually serious about paying my own way. I think somewhere in their minds, they started calculating what I might owe them instead. My parents' house in San Jose was worth $2.1 million by 2020. They'd bought it in 1999 for $480,000. But their mortgage was a problem. My dad had refinanced multiple times. He'd taken out a home equity line of credit. He'd borrowed against the house to pay for renovations. They redid the kitchen in 2008, added a second master bath in 2010. He'd borrowed to help my younger brother through college, and notably, he did not co-sign for my brother's loans the way he had for mine. He'd borrowed to fund vacations. He'd borrowed to cover medical bills when my mum had some health issues. By 2020, they owed $1.2 million on the mortgage, and they were in their late 50s. They should have been thinking about paying that house off by age 65. They should have been cutting back, downsizing, thinking about retirement. Instead, their debt was growing. My dad's company had gone through a round of restructuring. He was safe, but his bonus got cut. My mum's company went through layoffs in 2019. She took a severance package. Their combined income dropped from about $220,000 to about $155,000. They didn't tell me any of this. I found out through Facebook. My mum posted a photo from a staycation at a local hotel in San Francisco. They looked happy in the photo. Her in a sun hat, him with his arm around her by the bay. And then nothing for 6 months. No posts, no updates, no family photos. Just quiet. I remember calling her and asking how she was doing. She said, "Oh, just keeping busy. Dad's been doing some consulting work." That's how I learned my dad had left his full-time job. Then in early 2021, my dad called me. It was a Tuesday evening. I was at work, actually, wrapping up a project. He didn't do small talk. "Sarah, we need to talk about your student loans." I was confused. "Dad, I refinanced everything. You're not on them anymore. You're completely clear." "I know, but we need you to help us with something." That's when he told me about the mortgage, how much they owed, how much they were struggling, how the house was becoming a problem. He broke it down like it was a business presentation. Debt breakdown, monthly payments, income reduction, equity remaining. The math was bad. And then he said the thing I'll never forget. He said it quietly, like he was ashamed, but also like he'd practiced it. "When we co-signed your loans, we were making an investment in you. We believed in you. And now we need you to invest in us." I didn't respond right away. I was trying to process what he was actually asking. "Are you asking me to pay your mortgage, Dad?" "We're asking you to help. You make good money now." This is what families do. I was 23 years old. I made $95,000 a year. After taxes and 401k contributions, I was taking home about $5,500 a month. My student loan payments were $2,100 a month. I was paying extra to get out of debt faster. My rent in San Francisco was $1,800 a month. My other expenses, food, utilities, insurance, transportation, were about $1,200 a month. My parents were asking me to pay a $12,000 a month mortgage. Do you see the math here? They were asking me to spend more than double what I was bringing home every month to cover their debt. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, very calmly, "Dad, I can't do that. Sarah, I really can't. The math doesn't work. I'm making $95,000 a year. You're asking me to give you $144,000 a year. That's more than my entire salary. That's impossible." There was a long silence. Then he said, "Well, let's talk about it as a family." That's when I should have known things were going to get ugly. We set up a family call for the following Sunday. Me, my parents, and my younger brother David. We all got on Zoom. My parents were sitting on their couch. David was at his apartment. I was at my kitchen table with a cup of tea I didn't drink. My mum started. She said, "Sarah, we need to talk about helping your father and me." I said, "I'm listening." My dad explained the situation again, but this time with more detail. He showed me spreadsheets. He had actually made spreadsheets. He showed me their mortgage statement. He showed me their monthly payment. He showed me their current income. He made a very clear, very documented case for why they were drowning. And then he said, "We co-signed $183,000 in loans for you. We took on that risk. We believed in you. And you've done well. You've made good money. Now it's time to pay us back, not just financially, but to show us that you remember what we did for you." I took a breath. I said, "Dad, I appreciate you explaining the situation, but I need to be very clear about something. Co-signing a loan is not an investment. It's a legal responsibility. And I paid you back for that responsibility by refinancing, NG the loans and getting your name off them. That's the repayment. That's what I owe you." My mum said, "That's not what we meant, honey." "Then what did you mean?" My brother David jumped in. "She's being selfish, Mum. Dad and Mum did everything for us growing up. The least she can do." "David, you shut up," I said. Not mean, just factual. You're a 21-year-old college student whose tuition Mum and Dad are probably still paying for. You don't get an opinion on this. He got quiet. My mum said, "We sacrificed for you, Sarah. We gave up so much." And this is where I snapped. Not angry, but firm. I said, "You gave birth to me. That's not a sacrifice that I owe you money for. You raised me. That's your parental responsibility. You fed me, clothed me, put a roof over my head. That's what parents do. It's not an investment with expected returns. It's just parenting." My dad said, "That's not fair." "Then what is fair? You want me to give you $12,000 a month? I make $95,000 a year before taxes. That's impossible. Even if it was possible, even if I could somehow afford it, it would be wrong. It would be you using the guilt of my existence to extract money from me." My mum started crying. My brother looked at his shoes. My dad's jaw got tight. My mum said, "We sacrificed for you. We co-signed your loans. We believed in you when nobody else did." I sat with that for a moment. And then I said, very carefully, "You co-signed my loans because I had no credit history and I needed a co-signer to get loans for college. That wasn't a gift. That wasn't a sacrifice. That was a basic parental responsibility. You did what parents are supposed to do. And I paid off every single penny of that debt myself. I paid you back by removing you from the liability. I paid you back by being responsible. I paid you back by succeeding." My dad said, "That's not the point. Then what is the point?" "Dad, the point is we helped you, and now you won't help us. I did help you. I got you off the loans. I took that financial responsibility completely on myself. That's the help I'm giving you. I'm giving you the gift of being completely clear of any liability for my education. But I can't, and I won't, bankrupt myself to fix your bad financial decisions." My mum started crying harder. My brother told me I was a terrible daughter. My dad just stared at the screen like he was looking through me instead of at me. And then I said something I've regretted and not regretted in equal measure. I said, "I love you both, but if you keep pushing this, I'm going to have to step back from this relationship. I can't be around people who are trying to guilt me into financial ruin." My mum gasped. My dad's face went white. My brother said, "What the fuck, Sarah?" I hung up. That was April 2021. We didn't speak for 3 months. In July 2021, I got the certified letter. I was at work, sitting at my desk on the 34th floor of a building in downtown San Francisco, and a courier came by with a package that required a signature. I knew what it was the moment I saw the envelope. My parents' law firm they'd hired one was claiming that I had a financial obligation to them based on the co-signed loans. The argument was essentially this: the defendant took on financial risk for the plaintiff's education. The defendant has benefited from that education and now earns a high income. The plaintiffs are asking the defendant to reimburse them for the risk they took, which they value at $62,000. $62,000. That was 5 years of their current mortgage payments. The letter also included documentation of their mortgage, their monthly payments, their income, everything they wanted me to know about their financial situation. It was all there, laid out in legal language, asking a judge to order me to pay it. I sat at my desk for a long time after reading it. My co-workers were walking by, people were having conversations, the office was full of noise. And I was completely silent. I called a lawyer that day. Her name was Rebecca Martinez, and she specialised in family law and financial disputes. I went to her office on a Friday afternoon. She was in her 50s, sharp, no nonsense. She read through the lawsuit papers in about 20 minutes, then set them on her desk and looked at me over her glasses. "This case has no merit," she said flatly. "Co-signing a loan is not a financial investment. It's a conditional legal liability, and that liability ends when the loan is paid off. Your parents willingly took on that risk when they signed the papers. They can't now claim they're owed money for having done so. That's not how law works." "So we'll win?" I asked. "We'll win. But I need to be honest with you about what this is going to cost you personally. Your parents are suing you in civil court. The media is going to pick it up. It's a story. Wealthy tech worker sued by her own parents over co-signed student loans. It's going to get national coverage. It's going to hurt. Are you sure you want to do this?" I remember looking at her and thinking, do I have a choice? And the answer was no, I didn't. "Let's do it," I said. I didn't contact the media. My parents' lawyer did. The first article came out 3 days after the lawsuit was filed in the San Jose Mercury News. The headline was "Local Couple Sues Daughter for Student Loan Debt They Co-Signed." The article included quotes from my parents' lawyer talking about family obligation and investment in her future. By the end of the week, it was national news. NPR did a segment. The Washington Post ran a think piece. Reddit exploded. Twitter had opinions. So many opinions. And the opinions were split almost exactly down the middle. Half the internet thought my parents were monsters, exploiting their daughter's naivety as an 18-year-old, trying to guilt her into financial suicide. The other half thought I was ungrateful, selfish, unwilling to help my family when they were struggling. One Twitter thread had a woman saying, "My parents paid for my college outright and helped with my down payment on a house. The least this girl can do is help them with their mortgage. She's obviously spoiled." Another said, "My parents forced me to co-sign for their house when I was 22. I didn't understand what it meant. Now I'm 35 and they owe $200 K. I refuse to pay." She's doing exactly the right thing. My LinkedIn got flooded with messages. Recruiters stopped contacting me. My Instagram was full of hate comments from strangers who'd found my profile. People found my personal Facebook and left long messages about filial piety and family obligation and how I was a disappointment to Asian daughters everywhere. One message said, "Your parents are from a generation that sacrificed everything for their children, and you won't even sacrifice your money for them? Shame on you. Shame on your entire family." Another said, "You're going to regret this when they're dying and you're alone." A third said, "As an Asian American woman, I'm embarrassed by you." I almost believed it. Almost. There were days when I thought, maybe I am selfish. Maybe I should just pay them. Maybe my lawyers are wrong and I'm going to lose and I'm going to have to pay anyway and this will all have been for nothing. But then I'd remember my dad's voice on that call. "When we co-signed your loans, we were making an investment in you." That wasn't true. It was a lie. It was a retroactive justification for something that had never been intended as an investment. And I'd think, no, I'm right. I'm not doing this. My lawyer gave me a document to review before the trial. It was a credit report analysis. My lawyer had pulled my parents' credit history for the past 10 years. What it showed was this. My parents' credit score had been destroyed by their own financial mismanagement, not by co-signing my loans. They had missed payments on the home equity line of credit. They had maxed out multiple credit cards. I didn't even know they had that many. They had a car loan that was underwater. They owed more than the car was worth. They had taken out a personal loan to pay for my brother David's wedding, which I didn't even know about. The co-signed student loans had actually been the only debt they'd managed responsibly. I had never missed a single payment. I had always paid on time. I had actually paid extra toward the principal. Their co-signed liability had never cost them a single point on their credit score. My lawyer said, "They're not suing you because co-signing your loans hurt them. They're suing you because they're drowning in debt they created themselves, and they need someone to blame. They need someone to fix it. And that someone, in their mind, is you." That's the moment everything became clear to me. This wasn't about investment or gratitude or family obligation. This was about my parents needing a scapegoat. This was about them looking at their financial situation and deciding that it was my job to fix it because I had succeeded and they had failed. And I wasn't going to do that. The trial was in October 2021. Small Claims Court, San Jose. The courtroom was exactly what you'd imagine. Fluorescent lights, wood panelling, a judge in a black robe who looked like she had about 40 cases to get through that day. My parents showed up with their lawyer. I showed up with Rebecca. We didn't make eye contact when we first walked in. The judge reviewed the case in about 20 minutes. She asked my parents to explain their legal theory. They stood up, one after the other, and essentially said, "We took on financial risk for her education. She benefited from that education by getting a degree and a good job. Now she should pay us back for the risk." The judge said, "Co-signing a loan is not an investment. It's a conditional legal liability. If the borrower defaults, the co-signer is liable. If the borrower doesn't default, the liability is discharged when the loan is paid off. Miss Chen paid off all her loans on time, ahead of schedule, and refinanced them so that you are no longer liable. Your conditional liability ended years ago. You're not owed anything." My parents' lawyer tried to argue that there was an implicit family understanding, that co-signing was meant as an investment, that my parents had expected repayment once I was earning. The judge said, "If that was the understanding, it should have been documented. It wasn't. Therefore, it didn't exist. Case dismissed." It took 5 minutes total. 5 minutes for a judge to confirm what my lawyer had told me and what I already knew to be true. My parents had to pay court costs, about $3,000. As we were leaving the courthouse, I looked at them. My mum had been crying the entire time. My dad just looked tired, older than I remembered him looking. My brother David was there too, and he wouldn't make eye contact. I wanted to say something. I wanted to bridge the gap that had opened up between us. But I didn't know what to say that wouldn't sound like a lecture or a dismissal or a victory lap. So I just said, quietly, "I'm sorry you're struggling. I really am. But I can't set myself on fire to keep you warm." My dad flinched like I'd hit him. 6 months later, my parents declared bankruptcy. They filed Chapter 7, which meant they liquidated their assets. The house was sold. They walked away from the $1.2 million mortgage. They lost the equity they'd built up over 20 years. My mum got a job at a medical office, working the front desk. My dad took a consulting gig, working irregular hours. They moved into a rental in a less expensive part of San Jose, a 2-bedroom apartment that probably rented for $2,000 a month. My brother David, I'm not sure what happened to my brother. He stopped talking to me. I assume he sided with our parents. I assume he thought I was selfish. I haven't heard from him in 3 years. My dad reached out once, about a year after the bankruptcy. He sent me an email, no subject line. It just said, "I think I understand now. I'm sorry." That's all it said. No explanation, no context. Just 5 words. I didn't respond right away. I didn't know how. I loved my parents. I still do. But I also couldn't ignore what they'd tried to do, or the fact that they'd tried to sue me when I didn't comply. That's not something you get over quickly. Eventually, I wrote back. I said, "I'm sorry too. I'm sorry you're struggling. I'm sorry I can't fix this for you. I'm sorry that you couldn't be the parents I needed you to be when I was 18. But I can't set myself on fire to keep you warm. I hope you understand that one day." He never replied. I'm 26 now. I have a better job, $180,000 a year. I have my own house in the Bay Area with a mortgage I'm paying myself. Thank you very much. I have a partner named Alex who thinks my family is absolutely insane for having sued me. I have a therapist who I see every 2 weeks to process what happened. And I've had a lot of time to think about what happened. Here's what I know now. My parents didn't co-sign my loans because they were making an investment in me. They co-signed because I needed a co-signer, and they were my parents, and that's what parents do. They didn't expect repayment. They just didn't think past that moment. But when their lives got hard, they looked back and saw an opportunity. They saw their daughter making good money, and they saw the co-signed loans as leverage. They thought they could use that guilt. The guilt of being a good daughter, the guilt of being the responsible one, to extract money from me. What they didn't understand is that co-signing wasn't a gift. It was just signing. It was a piece of paper. And once I paid off the debt, the obligation ended. They tried to create an obligation where none existed. And when I wouldn't comply, they sued me. They took me to court. They tried to use the legal system to force me to bankrupt myself to save them. That's the part I still haven't fully forgiven. Not the financial pressure, not the guilt tripping, but the lawsuit, the legal action, the public shame. The attempt to use the courts to force me to do something they had no right to demand. If you've ever been sued by your own parents, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment. Tell me your story. Tell me how you got through it. And if your parents are co-signing for your loans right now, please understand what that actually means. It's not a gift. It's a legal liability they're taking on. Make absolutely sure they understand that too. Have that conversation. Spell it out. Don't make the same mistake I did. If this video helped you feel less alone, less crazy, less guilty, then share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to share your own story or just vent in the comments, I'm here for it. I read every single one. I'll see you in tea. Next one.